The heavy double doors of the Calreen Imperial Hall opened with a deep, echoing groan. Liam stepped inside, his boots clicking against the polished black stone floor. Towering pillars carved with twisting alien patterns rose on both sides, their surfaces shimmering faintly in the soft golden light. At the far end sat the Emperor on a high, throne-like seat, flanked by advisors in long robes. Standing just a step lower, dressed in flowing silver armor that caught the light like liquid metal, was Princess Serenia. Liam kept his steps slow and steady. He knew the eyes of every alien noble in the chamber were locked on him. The Calreen had never been friendly to humans. Centuries of distrust and political tension had turned into quiet hostility. Liam had been sent here as a peace envoy, not because he was the most skilled diplomat, but because he had a reputation for patience and a refusal to be provoked. Still, he could feel the weight of suspicion pressing down on him like a physical force. The Calreen Emperor spoke in a low, rumbling voice that seemed to vibrate through the floor. "Human Liam, you stand before the court of the Calreen Empire to speak of peace. Yet our history tells us your kind are cunning traders of words. Why should we believe this time will be different?" Liam bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I am here to speak not as a conqueror or a trickster, but as a messenger. Earth seeks understanding, not advantage. If I can, I would like to offer a gift as a symbol of that intent." From a small protective case, he carefully lifted a single preserved earth flower, an ivory lily, its petals soft and curved, still carrying the faint scent of spring. In the vast and warlike Calreen culture, flowers were rare and meaningless. Beauty was found in strength, not fragility. But to Liam, this flower was something delicate that survived despite the odds, just like peace between their species could. He approached the raised platform where Princess Serenia stood. Her dark, angular eyes tracked his every movement. When he stopped a respectful distance away, he held the flower out to her. She didn't take it. Instead, her gaze sharpened like a blade. "Why are you being so kind, human?" Her voice carried across the hall, cutting through the heavy silence. "What do you really want?" The words hung in the air, and for a moment no one moved. Several alien nobles exchanged knowing glances, some smirking faintly. They had expected this. They believed humans never gave without expecting something in return. Liam kept his voice calm, even though he could feel the tension in the room. "Sometimes kindness is not a bargain," he said quietly. "Sometimes it is only kindness." Serenia's brow furrowed slightly, but she said nothing. Instead, she reached out slowly and took the flower, holding it as if she were searching it for some hidden trap. After a moment, she handed it to one of her attendants without looking at it again. "We will see," she said coldly, turning away from him. The Emperor leaned forward, his eyes glinting. "Your first task, human, will be to observe our border, settlements. There has been unrest among our merchant clans. Perhaps your people's skill with trade disputes will be useful." Liam bowed again. "As you wish." The meeting ended without warmth. Liam was escorted out by 2 guards, their hands never far from the weapons strapped to their sides. As he walked down the long hall toward the exit, he could still hear the faint echo of Serenia's voice in his mind. Sharp, challenging, and suspicious. The journey to the border settlement took 2 days by airship. Liam spent most of that time reviewing Calreen cultural practices from his data pad. Their society valued honor in ways humans sometimes struggled to understand. Favors and gifts were almost always tied to obligation. The idea of giving freely was not just rare, it was almost unthinkable. When he arrived, the settlement was tense. 2 merchant clans were on the brink of violence over disputed territory rights. Liam spent hours listening to both sides, refusing to take offense when they insulted humans as soft bloods or stonebreakers. He calmly worked out a fair arrangement that benefited both without humiliating either. When it was over, both clan leaders were surprised that he had not demanded anything in return, not even a public statement of support. News of this reached the imperial palace faster than Liam expected. In the High Council chamber, Princess Serenia listened to. Her advisor read the report. The human resolved the dispute, the advisor said, and left without claiming a single reward. The clans were confused. They suspect he is saving his favor for something greater. Serenia crossed her arms. Of course he is. No one acts without reason, especially not a human. Yet, a small, unwelcome thought crept into her mind. What if he truly didn't want anything? She quickly pushed it away. She had been trained since childhood to see through manipulation, and humans were masters of it. Still, the image of him standing calmly in the imperial hall, offering her that strange, fragile flower, would not leave her mind. 2 days later, Liam returned to the capital for his next assignment. This time, Serenia was waiting for him outside the hall. She stood with perfect posture, her silver armor gleaming in the morning sun. "Human," she said, her tone flat. "You will come with me." He fell into step beside her as she led him down a series of narrow corridors. "Where are we going?" he asked. "The archives," she replied. "They were damaged during last year's skirmish. I want to see if your kind's skill with information can be of use, or perhaps you will find nothing worth your time and finally show your true intentions." Liam smiled faintly. "Then I suppose we'll both find out." The archives were in worse shape than he expected. Collapsed shelves, scattered, crystal data cores and dust thick enough to cloud the air. He rolled up his sleeves and began sorting through the mess. Serenia watched him at first, waiting for him to give up. But he didn't. For hours, he worked without complaint, restoring damaged records and arranging them in the proper sequence. When he was finished, he didn't wait for thanks. He simply moved on to the next task. As they left the archives, Serenia found herself glancing at him from the corner of her eye. There was no arrogance in his posture, no smug smile that said he had proven her wrong. He just seemed content to help. That unsettled her more than any calculated scheme could have. Later that evening, Serenia stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The wind carried the scent of the flower he had given her. Her attendant had placed it in a small crystal vase in her chambers. She told herself it meant nothing, yet she kept thinking about it. In her mind, she heard her own voice again. "Why are you being so kind, human? What do you really want?" She wasn't sure she liked the fact that, for the first time, she didn't have an answer. 3 days passed before Liam saw Princess Serenia again. During that time, he had been sent to assist with the relocation of refugees from a border conflict. The work was exhausting, loading supplies, arranging safe transport, and making sure families stayed together. The Calreen guards who oversaw the relocation gave him little help, clearly expecting him to fail. But Liam stayed calm and focused, even when tempers flared among the refugees. When the last transport left, he didn't wait for recognition. He simply checked that all lists were complete, nodded to the guards, and walked away. What he didn't know was that Serenia had been watching from a distance. She stood on a nearby observation platform, her silver armor catching the afternoon light, her sharp eyes tracking his movements. She had expected him to show frustration or demand compensation. Instead, he had worked quietly until the job was done. It didn't fit with the lessons she had been taught about humans. Later, when they met in the imperial courtyard, her expression was unreadable. "You've been busy," she said, walking toward him with slow, deliberate steps. "There was work to be done," Liam replied simply, "and yet no reward taken." Her voice carried a hint of challenge. "Do you not value profit, human?" "I value people more," Liam said, his tone calm. "Profit is easier to replace." Serenya's eyes narrowed slightly, but she said nothing more. Instead, she gestured for him to follow her. She led him through the palace gardens, a rare place of quiet in the heart of the capital. Tall, alien trees with deep red leaves swayed gently in the breeze. A small stream ran through the center, its waters reflecting the strange twin moons above. "This is not where I usually bring outsiders," Serenya said without looking at him. "These gardens are reserved for the imperial family." "Then, why bring me here?" Liam asked. "To see if you understand value," she replied. "Anyone can give away something they do not care about. But these gardens, they are not for bargaining. They are for trust." They walked in silence for a moment, the sound of running water filling the air. Then she stopped near a tree whose branches bent low over the path. "You still haven't told me what you want," she said quietly, though her voice still carried a hint of steel. "No human comes here without wanting something." Liam met her gaze. "What I want is peace between our people. What I hope for is a future where we meet without suspicion, but personally," he paused, looking at the red leaves swaying above them. "I want to believe that trust can exist without trade." Serenya tilted her head slightly, as if studying him from a new angle. "You speak well, but words are easy to shape." "Then, don't believe my words," Liam said. "Believe my actions." The next day, Serenya decided to test him again. She summoned Liam to a mining district on the edge of the capital. A dispute had broken out between miners and overseers, accusations of withheld pay and dangerous working conditions. When Liam arrived, the air was thick with tension. The miners, their armor worn and scratched, stood in a tight group, their voices sharp with anger. The overseers stood apart, their posture stiff, hands close to the weapons at their belts. Serenya watched from a high balcony as Liam stepped between them. He listened to both sides without raising his voice, asking questions, until the shouting faded. Then he proposed a simple solution. The overseers would release the withheld pay immediately, and in return, the miners would agree to complete the current cycle before negotiations began for safer conditions. At first, neither side agreed. But Liam remained calm even when insults were thrown in his direction. Slowly, the tension eased. After nearly an hour, both sides shook hands. Not with warmth, but with a grudging agreement that kept the district from descending into violence. Serenya's eyes narrowed as she watched. His methods were different from the Calreen way, but they worked. When Liam returned to the palace that evening, Serenya was waiting in the courtyard again. "You keep involving yourself in our disputes," she said. "You asked me to help," Liam replied. "I asked you to reveal your true intentions," she corrected. "And yet you still refuse to take advantage." "Maybe my intentions are my actions," Liam said, his voice steady. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. "You are either the most patient deceiver I have ever met, or something else entirely." "You'll have to decide which," Liam said with a faint smile. That night, Serenya sat in her private chambers, the ivory lily still in its crystal vase beside her desk. She found herself staring at it longer than she intended. It was still alive, its petals soft, its color unchanged, despite the days that had passed. In Calreen culture, such fragility was a weakness, yet here it was, enduring quietly, without force or armor. She thought of Liam's calm voice, his steady movements, the way he had stepped between angry miners without hesitation. She didn't want to admit it, but her certainty about his motives was beginning to crack. The next morning, an imperial messenger brought troubling news. A small riot had broken out in one of the outer districts. Civilians were trapped, and the local guard was struggling to keep order. The emperor ordered Serenya to oversee the situation, and she was given the option to bring whoever she deemed necessary. She hesitated for only a moment before calling for Liam. When he arrived, she explained the situation. "This will be dangerous. You are not obligated to come. If people are in danger, I'll come," he said simply. They traveled together to the district, the tension between them replaced by a quiet focus. The streets were filled with smoke, and distant shouts echoed through the air. Debris littered the ground, and the smell of burning metal stung the senses. Serenia moved with practiced precision, directing guards to secure the main streets while Liam went straight to the civilians. He helped them move through the safer alleys, carrying children when needed, guiding the injured toward the evacuation point. At one point, a collapsing wall nearly struck a group of refugees. Liam pulled them clear just in time, taking a heavy blow to his shoulder. He didn't slow down. Serenia saw it all from a distance, her sharp eyes catching every movement. When the district was finally secured, she found him leaning against a wall, catching his breath. "You could have been killed," she said sharply. "So could they," he replied. For the first time, her voice softened. "You are making it harder to mistrust you, human," he smiled faintly. "Good. That means we're making progress." Serenia turned away, but not before he saw the corner of her mouth twitch, almost like the beginning of a... Varen's scout ship moved deeper into the graveyard of ships. The mist clung to the hull, and every sensor sweep came back with distorted readings. It was as if the place itself was trying to hide from them. Varen kept his voice low as if the dead ships could hear him. "Hold course steady, no sudden movements. If something is collecting these ships, we don't want to alert it." In the back of the cockpit, the sensor officer whispered, "Sir, I have a lock on the human life sign. Faint, but it's there, moving slowly." Varen's eyes narrowed. "Distance?" "Less than 20 clicks. But sir, there's another reading. Larger, following it." Varen didn't need to ask what that meant. Something here had noticed their target, and maybe them too. In the camp hidden among the wrecks, the human sat near the fire, turning the small communicator over in his hands. It was old but functional. The machine-faced figure had given him one warning: short range only or they will detect you. He waited until the guards were distracted, then moved behind a broken section of hull. Carefully, he activated the device. "This is..." He paused, realizing his voice was shaking. "This is Captain Aaron Hale. If anyone can hear me, I'm alive." He released the button and waited. Static filled his ears. Then, Varen's voice. "Captain Hale, is that you?" Relief hit him like a wave. "Varen, you have no idea how glad I am to hear you. Listen, this place isn't a battlefield. It's a trap. They collect ships from every war, every species, and there's something worse coming." Varen's voice came back tense. "We're close to you, but something's tracking us. Can you move?" Aaron glanced toward the camp. The guards were still at their posts, but their heads were turning, scanning the mist. "I'll try, but if you see a large black ship, run." Varen ended the transmission and turned to his crew. "Bring us in closer. Slow speed. Eyes open." As they edged forward, shapes loomed in the fog. Hulks the size of cities, their metal skins scarred and pitted. Some had holes large enough for small ships to fly through. Then, from the shadows, something massive moved. Varen's pilot swore under his breath. "Sir, that's not a derelict." The black ship slid into view, silent and smooth. Its surface seemed to drink in the light. No visible engines. No weapons that they could see. But the feeling of being watched was undeniable. "Divert course," Varen ordered quietly. "Don't make it obvious." Aaron had started moving through the maze of wreckage, using the shadows for cover. His training kept him calm, but every instinct screamed at him to move faster. Behind him, a sound rose, low and rhythmic, like something mechanical breathing. He ducked into the broken hull of a carrier, the floor tilted at a steep angle. Stepping over twisted metal, he reached what used to be a hangar. Through a gap in the wall, he saw it. Varen's ship, small and fragile-looking, moving cautiously between the dead giants. He was so focused on it that he almost missed the other sound. A faint metallic click close by. Aaron spun. A tall figure stepped from the shadows, one of the part-machine beings, but not the one who had helped him. This one's eyes glowed a deep red. "You're leaving," it said, voice cold. "That's the plan," Aaron replied, backing toward the gap. The red-eyed figure tilted its head. "You should have died in the war, but you carry something our masters want. You will not take it from here." Aaron didn't wait for it to move. He bolted, sprinting across the tilted floor, diving through the gap into the open wreck field. Varen saw movement ahead, small, fast, weaving through debris. "That's him," Varen said sharply. "Get ready to open the bay." The black ship, above, shifted, turning toward the same spot. "Pilot, full burn!" Varen barked. The scout ship surged forward, engines straining. Aaron ran as fast as he could, the mist tearing past him. The black ship's shadow swept over the wrecks, silent but terrifying. A sudden beam of light cut through the fog. Not a weapon, but a scanner. It passed over him, and he felt a strange pressure in his head, like hands trying to dig through his thoughts. He stumbled, gritting his teeth, forcing the pressure back. The communicator crackled. "Hail! Jump now!" Ahead, Varen's scout ship dropped lower, its side bay open. Aaron pushed harder, leaping onto a fallen beam and using it as a ramp to reach the open bay. Strong hands grabbed him, pulling him inside. "Close it!" Varen ordered. The bay doors sealed just as the black ship descended, gliding closer. In the cockpit, alarms flared. "It's locking onto us," the sensor officer shouted. Varen's jaw tightened. "Engage the ripple! Get us out of here!" The pilot turned them sharply, engines screaming as they headed back toward the strange distortion in space. The black ship followed, gaining fast. Without any visible thrust, Aaron stumbled into the cockpit, still catching his breath. "You can't fight it," he said quickly. "Nothing here can. Just run." Varen didn't argue. The ripple grew larger on the view screen, a dark slash. In the stars, they plunged through. The moment they crossed, the pressure eased. The black ship stopped at the edge of the ripple, watching them. And then it turned away, vanishing back into the mist. Silence filled the cockpit for a long moment. Varen finally spoke. "Welcome back, Captain. The Queen is going to want to see you." Aaron's face was pale. "Good, because we have to warn her. That graveyard isn't just a collection, it's a supply for something bigger. I've seen the plans." Varen glanced at him. "Plans for what?" Aaron's voice was low. "A fleet, built from the dead ships of 100 wars. And when it's ready, they'll hit her empire and Earth at the same time." Varen stared at him, the weight of the words settling in. "Then we'd better not waste any time." In the palace, the Queen stood by her window, staring at the stars. Her scouts had not returned yet, but she felt it. Somewhere out there, the truth was moving closer, and she was ready to face it. The palace war room was alive with noise, officers speaking quickly, maps flickering on the hollow table, ships moving across the displays. The Queen stood at the center, her silver hair tied back, her gaze sharp. "Enemy fleet sighted in the outer sector," a commander reported. "It's small, but the formation is unusual." The Queen studied the display. The enemy ships were moving in a loose pattern, as if probing defenses. It didn't fit their usual strategy. Before she could respond, a voice came through the comms channel. "This is Scout Vessel Silent Wing, requesting immediate audience with the Queen. Priority level, personal." The Queen froze. That voice, she knew it. She stepped toward the console. "Identify yourself." There was a pause, then, "It's me." Her heart skipped a beat. "Impossible," she whispered. The channel crackled. "Permission to dock?" She didn't hesitate. Clear Bay 7. Bring them in now. Minutes later, she stood in the docking bay, her guards forming a half-circle behind her. The silent wing lowered its landing struts, and the hatch opened with a hiss of escaping air. Varen stepped out first, giving a short bow, but the Queen's eyes were fixed on the figure behind him. He walked slowly down the ramp, wearing battered combat armor, a faint limp in his step. Scars marked his face, but his eyes, those same steady human eyes, met hers. "You," she began, her voice breaking. "I told you I'd come back," he said softly. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then she stepped forward, closing the distance, and placed her hands on his shoulders as if to confirm he was real. "How?" she asked. "No time," he said. "Your outer fleet's about to be hit, and you're not facing the enemy you think you are." The war room was silent as Aaron explained. "The fleet in the outer sector is just a distraction," he said, pointing to the holomap. "The real threat is a hidden armada. They've been collecting warships from every battle they could reach. Human, alien, it doesn't matter. They rebuild them, merge their tech, and turn them into something stronger. And they're almost ready to strike both your empire and Earth at once." "Where is this armada?" the Queen asked. "Hidden in a ship graveyard behind a spatial distortion." "I was there." Varen saw it too. "If they push through that distortion, we'll be outnumbered before we can form a defense." Her counsel murmured nervously, but she raised a hand for silence. "Then we cannot wait for them to come to us. We take the fight to them." Preparations began at once. The Queen ordered a strike force of fast, heavily armed ships to launch toward the distortion. The silent wing would guide them, with Aaron on board the flagship to advise. Hours later, the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the edge of the enemy's probe force. The smaller fleet ahead moved to intercept. Battle stations. The call went through every ship. Aaron stood beside the Queen on the command deck, watching the tactical display. "They'll try to draw us into the center," he warned. "Don't let them." The Queen nodded. "Archers, split left and right. Fire on my mark." The first wave hit fast. Sleek black ships moving in unpredictable patterns. Alien and human. Designs twisted together, their weapons firing with frightening precision. The Queen's fleet answered with disciplined volleys, cutting down the lead ships, but more poured in from the sides. "Incoming fire on the starboard flank," a crewman shouted. Aaron grabbed the railing as the flagship shuddered under impact. "Shields holding," the tactical officer reported. The Queen didn't flinch. "Return. Fire. Concentrate on the larger hulls. They're coordinating the smaller ones." Explosions lit the void as several enemy ships broke apart. But in the chaos, Aaron saw something on the display. A massive energy spike far behind the skirmish. "That's it," he said. "They're charging a gate. The rest of the fleet will come through if we don't stop them now." The Queen looked at him. "Then we go through their line." Varen's voice came over comms from the silent wing. "We'll punch the gap. Follow in our wake." The smaller scout ship surged ahead, weaving through enemy fire. The flagship followed, its forward shields glowing under the hits it took. Aaron braced himself as they broke through into open space beyond the enemy line. Ahead, the gate shimmered. A vast ring of alien metal, half-built from the bones of captured warships. Ships were already emerging. "Too late," someone muttered. "Not if we overload it," Aaron said. "Hit the gate structure itself. Collapse it before more come through." The Queen gave the order. "All ships, target the gate." The fleet's combined firepower tore into the structure. Explosions rippled along its frame, but the gate kept pulsing with energy. Then the Black Shadow appeared, the same massive ship that had hunted Aaron in the graveyard. It moved between the fleet and the gate, its surface absorbing the hits. "It's shielding the gate," Varen reported. "We can't break through unless we take it head on," Aaron finished. The Queen looked at him. "Can we?" He met her gaze. We'll have to. The flagship turned toward the black ship, engines at full burn. The rest of the fleet focused on keeping the smaller enemy ships busy. As they closed the distance, the black ship fired, beams of pure energy that carved through the void. The flagship's shields flared bright, alarms blaring. "Shields at 40%! Aaron leaned over the tactical console. "Aim for the junction points along its spine. That's where the armor is weakest." The Queen relayed the command. Heavy cannons roared, slamming into the black ship's back. Chunks of armor tore away, exposing glowing machinery beneath. The black ship shuddered. For the first time, it pulled back from its position. "Now!" the Queen shouted. "All ships, fire on the gate!" Every weapon in range poured fire into the massive ring. Cracks of energy danced across its surface before a blinding explosion tore it apart. When the light faded, the gate was gone, along with the threat of the rest of the armada emerging. The remaining enemy ships scattered. Without their reinforcements, they couldn't hold the fight. Silence filled the command deck. The Queen let out a slow breath. "You came back to warn me," she said quietly, looking at Aaron. "And you fought beside me again." "I told you," he replied. "No matter the war, I'll always find my way back." For the first time since she had heard of his death, she allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's finish this," she said. "Together." The smell of scorched metal still lingered in the air of the flagship's command deck. Outside the wide viewing panels, debris from the destroyed gate drifted slowly, glowing faintly against the darkness. The battle was over, but the war was. Far from finished, Aaron stood beside the Queen as reports came in. The enemy's forward force was shattered, but intelligence from captured transmissions confirmed his worst fear. The hidden armada was still out there. The destruction of the gate had slowed them, but it had not stopped their plans. "We bought ourselves time," Aaron said quietly, his voice steady. "But when they come again, they'll bring everything they have." The Queen nodded, her silver hair catching the dim light. "Then we will be ready, but we cannot fight them alone." She turned to her war council. "Send envoys to the Human Alliance. Send word to the independent systems. We will call upon every ally, every friend, every world that values freedom. This war will be fought together, or it will be lost." The following days were a blur of movement and messages. Envoys departed from the palace's hidden launch bays, carrying urgent appeals for aid. Human diplomats responded quickly. The Queen's marriage to a human hero had already made her name known among Earth's leaders. Aaron spoke directly to the human fleet commanders via HoloLink. "You know what's at stake. This isn't just another border war. They're building a fleet from the graveyards of our dead. If they break through, they won't stop at one system. They'll burn the galaxy." His words carried weight. By the end of the week, the largest joint human-alien fleet in history began to gather at the edge of the Queen's territory. On the eve of battle, the Queen stood on a high balcony overlooking the assembly of warships. Rows upon rows of vessels stretched as far as the eye could see. Human cruisers with angular frames, alien capital ships shaped like blades, and dozens of smaller craft darting between them. Aaron joined her, his armor repaired, but still bearing. "The marks of the graveyard." "You've been quiet," she said. "Thinking," he replied, "about what happens after this." "After," she echoed. "If we win, I don't want to disappear again. No more being sent to the far edge of the galaxy without a way to come back." She looked at him for a long moment. "Then stay," she said simply. "Stay and help me rebuild, not just the empire, but the trust between our worlds." He smiled faintly. "Deal." The battle began at the edge of the distortion. The fleet approached cautiously, wary of the black shadow ships that could glide without a sound. Varen's Silent Wing led the vanguard, slipping ahead to scout. The distortion loomed like a wound in space, rippling faintly. "Contact!" Varen's voice came through the comms. Multiple large signatures emerging. This is it. Ships began pouring through the distortion. Monsters of metal and shadow, patched together from a dozen different technologies. Each one was larger than the human and alien vessels facing them, bristling with weapons of unfamiliar design. The Queen's voice rang through the fleet's channels. All ships, open fire! The void lit up as beams, missiles, and plasma bolts crossed the darkness. The enemy returned fire immediately, their weapons hitting hard and precise. Aaron stood behind the tactical console, calling out target points. Focus fire on the joints between hull sections. They're weaker there. Human battleships hammered the enemy with railguns, while alien cruisers sliced through armor with particle lances. The combined assault began to break the first wave, but more enemy ships kept coming. Then, the massive black ship appeared again, leading the charge. It cut through the Allied lines, its hull absorbing hit after hit. That thing's not going. Down with brute force, Aaron said grimly. We need to overload it from the inside. The Queen glanced at him. How? Varen and I board it. Plant charges in its core. That's suicide. Only if we're slow, he said with a half smile. Within minutes, the silent wing was racing toward the black ship, weaving through enemy fire. Varen's voice was tight. Boarding in 30 seconds. Hope your plan's better than it sounds. It's exactly as bad as it sounds, Aaron replied. The scout ship latched onto a seam in the black ship's armor, cutting through with plasma torches. Aaron and a small strike team slipped inside. The corridors were dim and silent, the walls pulsing faintly as if alive. Strange machinery hummed in the distance. Following his memory of the ship's layout from the graveyard, Aaron led them toward the core. They passed strange chambers filled with stolen parts from human and alien ships, weapon systems, shield, generators, entire engines ripped from their original hulls. Finally, they reached a vast chamber where a glowing sphere hung suspended in mid-air, threads of energy connecting it to the ship's frame. Plant the charges, Aaron ordered. As they worked, the hum of the core changed, deepening into a rumble. Varen's voice came over the comm. Enemy forces moving in your direction, fast. We're almost done, Aaron replied. Blaster fire echoed through the corridor. Figures appeared, part machine guards, their red eyes glowing in the dark. The strike team formed a line, holding them back while the last charges were armed. That's it, Aaron shouted. Varen, get us out of here! They sprinted back to the breach point, the enemy close behind. The silent wing detached and pulled away just as the charges detonated. The black ship shuddered violently, its core flaring like a dying star. A massive explosion tore it apart, scattering debris into the void. On the flagship, the Queen saw the blast and seized the moment. All ships, push forward! Drive them back into the distortion! The Allied fleet surged, their fire cutting through the disoriented enemy ranks. One by one, the shadow ships fell or fled back into the rippling gate. Finally, the distortion collapsed, sealing the graveyard away. Cheers erupted across the comms. When the smoke of battle cleared, the Queen stood at the front of the command deck. Today, she said to her fleet, we stood together, human and alien, and we did what neither could do alone. Remember this, because unity is our strongest weapon. Her words echoed across both fleets. Later, in the quiet of her private chamber, she and Aaron stood by the window, watching the stars. You saved more than my life, she said. You saved my people. And you saved mine, he replied. She studied him for a moment. I never believed you were gone. Not really. He smiled. Good, because no matter the distance, no matter the war, I'll always find my way back to you. Outside, the stars burned bright. The war was over, for now. But they would face whatever came next together. If you want, I can now compile all 5 parts into a single clean document for you, so it reads like a complete